Good day, folks. Mike Morris here. Look, thank you so much for checking out this video. It's been a while since I made a video, so I'm very grateful that you're tuning in. Now folks, look, let me tell you, I'm going to let you know right up front, I don't want to pull any punches here. I'm going to be talking about abortion today. So automatically, I know some of you automatically want to click off when you hear abortion because you don't want to think about that. But if you could just hear me out for a little bit, if you could just hear me out for a moment, I really believe this. Up to about 10 years ago, if you had asked me what I believe about abortion, well, because I'm a Christian, I would say abortion is just wrong. It's evil, it's the killing of babies. But to be honest, it was just kind of a pad Christian answer. I really couldn't tell you why I believe that. It's just an emotional response, and if you're a Christian, you know, there's certain things that you're supposed to believe in, right? You're supposed to believe in the Trinity. You're supposed to believe in helping people, being kind, and obeying the Ten Commandments. And abortion is one of those things you're just supposed to say is wrong. But to be honest, I couldn't defend it. I didn't know why I believed it. So folks, about 10 years ago, I made an oath with myself, if you will, that I was going to be able to defend what I claim I believe. Well, right now, folks, I have I have 4 basic points. It's called the sled argument. 4 basic points that I want to show you why I really believe that what is inside the womb of a mother, inside the womb of a woman, is in fact life. And here's the main question. Whether you think abortion is okay, or whether you think abortion is wrong, or if you're somewhere in the middle, ask yourself this question: what is the unborn? Because it all boils down to that. And if we can agree that the unborn is in fact a child, well then we have to have a serious issue now with abortion. Well, let's take a look at this. First of all, understand this. January is Sanctity of Life Month. And since 1973, when Roe versus Wade was first enacted, over 60 million babies have been killed. Now think about that. Since Roe versus Wade, since the Supreme Court of the United States of America, with a 7-2 vote, voted to allow abortion in America, there's been 60 million abortions. Now I'm Canadian, and I'm proudly a Canadian. In Canada, there's 35 million babies. Or sorry, 35 million babies. 35 million people in the country of Canada. So think about that. 60 million babies have been killed since Roe versus Wade in 73. That's almost Canada twice. So it's an alarming number. Well, let's look at some of the abortion arguments who say that abortion is okay. Well, first of all, they say size. They say because inside the womb the baby is so tiny that size is a factor. Therefore, it can't be a human being because it's so small. Well, think of it logically. Since when has size determined whether somebody's human or not? I'm a big guy. I'm 6'5", I weigh 240 pounds. Does that make me more human than maybe one of my students who is only 5'2" and 120 pounds? Well, of course not. Size has nothing to do with whether you're human or not. Well, how about level of development? Some people say, well, because inside the womb, the baby isn't fully developed yet. If it's not fully developed, it can't be human. Well, think about this for a second. Is a 1-year-old fully developed? Of course not. Is a 3-month-old fully developed? Well, of course not. And no one would think it's okay to kill a 3-month-old or a 1-year-old because it's not fully developed. Heck, students in my senior classes here at Liberty Christian Academy, they can't even grow a full beard yet, and they're 16, 17, 18 years old, so they're not even really fully developed yet. So just because something's not fully developed does not make it human. Again, what is the unborn? Well, how about environment? Some people say, well, because it is inside the womb and it's not outside the womb, therefore it is not a human. Well, since when does environment determine whether something's human or not? If I'm in a submarine underneath the Atlantic Ocean, does that make me less human than if I'm here? If I'm living in Canada, does that make me less human than I'm living here in Virginia? Well, of course not. Well, what about degree of dependency? Some people say, they use the word host, because the baby is attached to the host, the mother, therefore, without the mother, it cannot survive. If you were to take that baby outside the womb, it would die. Well, what about a 3-month-old? If you take a 3-month-old and you take its mother away and you leave it in the house by itself, that baby will die. It is totally dependent on its mother. What about a 1-year-old or even a 2-year-old? Are those little children not completely dependent on their mother? Even though they're not in the womb, they're still 100% dependent on their mother for their survival. My grandfather Morris, when he was dying in the hospital, he had a major stroke. He was paralyzed on one side. And for the last year or so of his life, my grandfather was completely dependent upon other people. I mean, he still had all his faculties. He could still talk and communicate and think and laugh and everything else. But my grandfather was dependent on nurses and doctors and family for eating, for changing himself, for absolutely everything. Was my grandfather not human because he was dependent on other people? Well, of course not. And folks, even if you look at the science of it, people often say, they will call it a fetus. They'll always refer to the fetus. Well, do you know what the word fetus means? The word fetus is simply a Latin term, and it means small child or baby. That's what it means. And they'll also make the argument that because of, I'm sorry, let me get to this. Some people make this point. They'll say because the baby, or because it's legal, therefore it must be moral. Well, just because something is legal doesn't make it moral. If you think of slavery here in America, I mean, I think we'd all agree that slavery is this horrible black eye on America. Nobody today in 2017 would suggest that slavery is okay. We all realize it's a wrong, it's a terrible thing to do to another human being. Yet back in that era, it was legal. Did that make it okay? Of course not. Slave owners, they believed that whatever slaves they owned that property, and they were entitled to do that property whatever they wanted to, and the majority of people would have agreed at that time that that was okay. Did that make it okay? Of course not. That was a terrible, immoral act that occurred on those people. So just because it's legal doesn't mean it's okay. Well, what about homicide? Think about this for a second. In the Scott Peterson case a number of years ago, if you remember when he killed his wife Lacey, who at the time was 8 months pregnant, he was actually charged with double homicide. It seems to me in America right now we have a double standard. If we want the baby, if we want the child, then it is life. If we don't want the baby, if we don't want the child, then it's okay, we can discard it. Well, either the unborn is human or it's not human. And whether you want the child or not want the child should really have no bearing in it whatsoever. In fact, folks, if you just look at the science of it, and I'm not going to get into a scientific debate or argument because I'm certainly not a scientist, but really the whole concept that the baby inside the mother's womb is a clump of tissue is just scientifically inaccurate. I mean, feel free to look it up for yourself and look up the science, but that is honestly a 40-year-old argument. The reality is the baby inside the womb, even at conception, has every bit of DNA and every bit of genetic code it possibly needs to make it completely what it is going to be 10, 20, 30 years from now. Every bit of genetic code that you have in your body, you had at conception. So I know these are hard issues and these are difficult things to talk about, but folks, the reality is we are aborting babies every single day, and I use that term babies on the altar of convenience. It's convenient, and I know that we'll always look to the more rare examples of rape and the mother who is sick or ill or dying, and they need to abort the baby because they think that the mother might lose her life. Understand this, that's a smokescreen. The vast majority of abortions that occur in America occur because the young lady got pregnant, and as an act of convenience, she needs to do away with her pregnancy. The reality is, ask yourself again this question, even in the case of rape, which is a horrible, horrible act against another human being, but ask yourself this question, what is the unborn? So folks, thank you so much for watching this video. I know these are difficult questions, but please understand this. One thing that concerns me with America right now is we tend to think that just because I disagree with somebody, then therefore I must hate them. And we live in a political climate right now that if we disagree with someone politically or on moral issues like abortion, that we must hate them. Can I let you know this, friends? And I know there's people in my family and people watching this back home in Canada, and you're probably looking at this right now, and this presentation maybe made you angry. But understand this, we can disagree and yet still love each other and care for each other. But I hope this, because some of you watching this, you're already on my side. Some of you watching this are on the far other side, and some of you you're not sure, you're kind of in the middle. But would you at least consider these arguments? Would you at least consider these things? And I have 3 names here for you. If you want to study this more in more depth, if you want to study this issue on your own more, I have 3 names for you. Scott Klusendorf, Jeff Durbin, and Todd Friel. He has a show called Wretched TV. If you were to Google or YouTube these guys' names, they are fantastic. And they really, really know what they're talking about. And folks, I just want to close with this. This is the last thing I'm going to say. And I'm sorry I'm kind of rambling on here, but I just want to close with this. Folks, if you're watching this video right now, and you've made the mistake of having an abortion, or if you're a man watching this video right now, and you've made the mistake of encouraging your wife or girlfriend, or maybe you even paid for an abortion, I've got good news for you. Sometimes as Christians, we're always accused of, we feel that we're better than other people. Can I assure you of this? I know I'm not better than anybody out there. And as a true follower of Jesus Christ, no believer in Christ should ever make you think that they're better than anybody else. I'm not. But I want you to know that if you have committed abortion, the good news is, like all the sins I've committed in my life, it can be forgiven. But the only way it can be forgiven is because of Jesus Christ. I watched a couple days ago a Planned Parenthood commercial. And on the Planned Parenthood commercial, it said that a lot of women, when they're done with their surgical procedure, as they call abortion, they said they often have feelings of guilt and remorse. And there's always a counselor just on standby to help them out. Can I ask you a question? If it's just a surgical procedure, why do they feel guilt? I have had in my life several operations. I've had my shoulder operated on, I've had my appendix removed, I've had my tonsils removed. Never once in any of those surgical procedures did I wake up and feel guilty because I had my shoulder operated on or my appendix removed. I didn't feel guilty. Why do so many young women experience guilt after an abortion? Because deep down inside, God gives us guilt to let us know when we've done something wrong. But the good news is we can be free from that guilt because of what Jesus Christ did for us on the cross. Folks, thank you so much. Please feel free to check out some of my other videos on YouTube. And again, thank you so much for listening. God bless. Have a great day.